Hello, everyone. Hello, thank you for joining this briefing on the UN Ocean Conference, which is coming up next month from the 9th to the 13th of June in Nice to accelerate action to conserve and sustainably use the ocean. It will be co-hosted by France and Costa Rica, and we have with us today representatives of these co-hosts, Ambassador Jérôme Bonafont, Permanent Representative of France, Ambassador Maritza Chan, Permanent Representative of Costa Rica to the UN, and of course we have the Conference Secretary General, Mr. Lee Junha, the Under Secretary General of Economic and Social Affairs. With that, right over to the speakers. Under Secretary General, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Marita. Dear members of the press, it's so great to meet you again in this small but cozy room. Let me just say a few words as a very brief introduction for the Ocean Conference. As we all know, the ocean, our planet, the life support system, is in a state of the emergency. The evidence is overwhelming. The rising temperature, acidifying waters, plastic choking marine life, disappearing habitats, and relentless overexploitation of the resources. The health of the ocean is declining, and with it, the well-being of the human being, who we actually depend on our ocean supply lines. However, there's still time to change our course if we act collectively and collectively. From the 9th to 13th June, the global community will gather in Nice, France, for the third UN conference on ocean, or UNOC 3. This will not be just another routine gathering. We hope that it is proved to be the pivotal opportunity to accelerate the action and mobilize all stakeholders across the sectors and the borders. The theme of this conference says it all: accelerating action and mobilizing all actors to conserve and sustainably use the ocean. Within this theme, the key priorities will be discussed in 10 ocean action panels. These panels cover the topics including ocean-based economy, fisheries, pollution, links with the climate exchange and biodiversity, of course, and also others. In addition to the panels and the plenary sessions, several special events will spotlight the specific challenges and opportunities. From the 4th to 6th June, France will convene the One Ocean Science Congress. And on 7th June, the City of Nice and the Ocean Climate Platform will host the Ocean Rights and Coastal Resilience Summit. Nearby, Monaco will host the Blue Economy and Finance Forum from the 7th to 8th June. UNOC 3 will culminate in the adoption of the Nice Ocean Action Plan, a concise action-oriented declaration along with the new and expanded voluntary commitments. This plan will be our collective blueprint to advance the SDG 14 to conserve and sustainably use the oceans, seas, and the marine resources. This is our moment to transform the ambition into action, uniting governments, scientists, businesses, and civil society together in a shared commitment. Well, your role, dear colleagues, dear friends, your role is indispensable. We count on you to convey the urgency and the opportunity of the UNOC 3 to the world. Your reporting will be vital in disseminating the conference outcomes, raising public awareness, and ensuring that momentum generated in Nice extends far beyond its shores, compelling continued actions. The future of the ocean is not predetermined. It will be shaped by the decision and action that we are making now. Let us choose a healthy, resilient ocean for our generation and also for the generations to come. Before I conclude, I just want to extend my deepest and sincerest gratitude to the conference co-hosts the government of France and the government of the Costa Rica for their visionary leadership and steadfast partnership. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Ambassador Bonafont?
Merci.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Undersecretary General. Thank you to Permanent Representative of Costa Rica, Maritza, for your decisive support to ensure that the Nice conference is a success. It's a United Nations conference. That's how we are experiencing this, following on from the Lisbon conference and before that the Brest conference. And I can assure you that preparations for this conference, as Mr. Yundwa pointed out, this conference is pulling in lots of local and regional and national actors, and over and above that, of course, we have our cooperation with Costa Rica as we co-organize this event. I won't repeat what the USG said, but suffice it to say that this is an urgent matter. Ecological urgency. We're seeing the degradation of the quality of the oceans as an environment, as a source of biodiversity, as in terms of its ability to be a carbon sink, etc., etc. The oceans also need to represent a livelihood for about a third of humanity. And of course, the oceans feed us through responsible fisheries. They feed the planet. And we can see that the ocean is being damaged by pollution. Think of plastics and how difficult it's been to conclude the Plastics Convention. It's also being ruined by the effects of climate change. So the goal of the Nice conference for France is to produce a Nice agreement that is pro-oceans, as the Paris Agreement 10 years ago now was for the climate. That's why what the USG said is so important with regard to the need for an action plan that is operational, where countries commit to undertake concrete action to protect the oceans. So the Undersecretary General said there will be 10 plenaries and 10 round tables that will be organized by the United Nations, and that we'll have a blue area for accredited delegations, and there'll also be a whole host of parallel activities, a scientific congress, for example, that will bring together several thousand researchers. There'll also be a summit of citizen regions, and a forum for the blue economy. There'll be the Global Ocean Day, the Islands Forum, an African regional forum, a Mediterranean forum, and a special day, the 9th of June, at 7 p.m., there'll be a special moment for ratifying the BBNJ Treaty. And it's our ambition to ensure that this treaty, which showed us how urgent a matter this is a few weeks ago, enter into force. We're expecting a high participation just in terms of heads of state and government. We already have more than 50 dignitaries. More than 25 international organizations will be attending, and the majority of countries will be represented at ministerial level or by heads of ministerial delegations. Let me end by giving you France's 8 priorities for this summit. First of all, the entry into force as soon as possible of the BBNJ Treaty. It really is important that that treaty become international law throughout the world. Secondly, to make progress on a sustainable fisheries agreement. You know, as I do, that this agreement is complex and it requires us all to become involved. Thirdly, we want to agree that in 2030, 30% of the oceans will be subject to protected areas. 4, an agreement and plan of action on the principle of decarbonization of transport, maritime transport. 4, make progress on this plastics agreement that I referred to just now. Then, the issue of funding the blue economy, which presupposes mobilizing international public and private financing, national and international. 7, the issue of local action, because the number of cities and regions around the ocean means that their participation will be decisive. And finally, scientific cooperation, because there's still a lot we don't know about the oceans, and therefore it's very important that we study that for biodiversity and climate change. So that's how France is actively preparing to host this summit. And I'd like to once again thank co-chair from Costa Rica for your commitment. And above all, I'd like to thank the USG as the president of the conference and all UN services for the support that you have been providing to ensure that this conference is a success. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. Now over to Ambassador Chan.
Thank you very much to all of you for being here, and to my colleague, Ambassador Franz's remarks. I want to share our perspective as co-host of the Third United Nations Ocean Conference in June. Our response must be groundbreaking. We have heard from USG Lee the need to accelerate action and mobilize actors to conserve and sustainably use the ocean. Accelerating action means cutting decision-making time from years to months, mobilizing all actors, engaging 195 governments, more than 1,000 cities, more than 500 corporations, and billions of citizens simultaneously. This is an opportunity for the United Nations to be together and to show that we can deliver as one. We're expecting concrete commitments with clear timelines, budgets, and accountability mechanisms. This is what is different this time around. Zero rhetoric, maximum results. As you have heard, we'll hold 3 concrete solutions before the June conference. We'll have the One Ocean Science Congress from June 3rd to 6th. The Ocean Rise and Coastal Resilient Coalition Summit, a key event focused on sea level rise. This event will be held on June 7th, and the Blue Economy Finance Forum from June 7th to 8th. And let me conclude my remarks with a call to action. Please mark your calendars. It's June 9th to 13th in Nice, France. We expect 1,500 delegates, 195 countries, 500 binding commitments, $100 billion in new funding. The Third United Nations Ocean Conference will either reverse ocean decline by 2030 or document humanity's failure to act. 5 days, one ocean, a unique opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Speakers will now take some questions.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. First, Mr. Ambassador, unfortunately, there was no translation of your remarks to English.
Yes, we did provide a simultaneous interpretation.
Okay. But maybe in response to that, you might like to give us a short synopsis in English of what you said. But to all of you, you've talked about accelerated action, groundbreaking moves. Can you give us some specific examples of what you're actually expecting as outcomes from this conference that might make headlines around the world, since the oceans basically encompass the entire world? And you said that, are you expecting, or do you already have pledges of $100 billion in new funding? Thank you.
Who wants to take that one? Maybe
Let me
Ambassador
take
Chan.
that one. In the 3 summits that will precede the conference, for instance, in the One Ocean Science Congress, we're expecting more than 2,000 marine scientists, and they will present breakthrough technologies and issue emergency protocols for immediate implementation. The one on sea level rise, 500 plus mayors from vulnerable coastal cities will present survival strategies for 630 million people at risk. Sea level rise is an issue that already had a high-level event last year, and Costa Rica co-facilitated that process with New Zealand. So it means that sea level rise is already in the agenda of the United Nations. And the Blue Economy Finance Forum will have Wall Street executives commit to $50 billion in sustainable ocean investments and creating 10 million blue economy jobs by 2030. So there are concrete outcomes of the conference, and I have to acknowledge that every actor, every person that we have knocked on their door has responded, because if there's something that unites, it's the ocean. Thank you.
We'll take.
Well, as you know, when there are interpreters, I usually don't speak in English. However, because of you being the president of the association, I will make a special gesture. And I will just tell you, because what I said is almost the same as what my colleagues just said. Let me just tell you in brief the 8 priorities that France has set for this conference. Number 1, obtain 60 ratification of BBNG treaty so that it enters into force. If we don't obtain it in Nice, at least that we obtain it in the very short future. Number 2, sustainable fishery. You know that agreement is being looked for that since a long time. Number 3, mobilize with the objective of 30% of the oceans being protected areas by 2030. Number 4, accelerate decarbonation of maritime transportation. Number 5, fight against plastic pollution, since we have, as you know, a treaty which is under negotiation and runs into some difficulties. Number 6, and Ambassador Chan was talking about it, mobilizing financing for blue economy. Number 7, deploy local action, in particular for the safeguard of oceans and fight against climate change. And number 8, strengthening scientific cooperation for the knowledge of the oceans.
Thank you.
Was it good enough English for you?
We'll take another question here.
Yes, thank you, ambassadors in USG. It's Pamela Falk from U.S. News and World Report. Having covered many of these conferences, I'm curious about the commitments. Point number 2 in the literature is to boost, mobilize finances. How do you see, you said $100 billion. are those commitments made already? And then to Ambassador Bonifant, thank you for your second summary, but you mentioned when you were speaking first both the BBNJ and the Plastics Treaty. Have you seen any results from the BBNJ? It was only passed last 23, and it hasn't gotten all the ratifications because from most of the assessments, plastics pollution is rising, may even double or triple by in the next 30 years. So what needs to be done on, especially on BBNJ, to actually have it enforced? Thank you.
On the financing?
I think that we are getting already some announcements, and they will be made in the conference. I cannot speak for those who will make headlines, but we expect a lot of resources coming out of the conference, and that we reaffirmed our commitment to the ocean. So we're expecting that announcements from many actors, even Wall Street.
And just on the 100 billion, are those named? Do we know who gave the 100 billion? What countries? What countries gave the 100
I don't have
billion?
that information with me.
Okay. We have to wait till June.
A few days.
Please.
Well, if I may add, number one, we cannot announce commitments before they are made by countries, companies, institutions, etc. We are not talking about public money only. We are talking about money coming from everywhere, because we believe that green-blue investment, if I may say so, green-blue economy is something extremely important for the future of world growth, as well as for world sustainable development. Now, when it comes to your question, yes, there is a treaty on plastic. You know that it is still running, and having all the countries of the world gathering in Nice for this ocean occasion is a good occasion to have heads of states and government and heads of delegations talk about what is blocking on the way of this treaty, which is both technical and political. So it's a complex subject. Number two, on BBNG, we have a little bit more than 23, 25 ratifications now. We hope to have new signings, and we hope many signings being transformed into ratifications by June 9th. And there is a special ceremony for the depositing instruments. We have been demarching worldwide in that respect to raise the understanding and consciousness of countries, so that even landlocked countries might take interest in this treaty. Because sometimes they don't see obviously the reason why they should enter, but they are impacted by oceans as well as non-landlocked countries. So we have decided to be universal in our démarches, and we hope that thanks to that it will progress.
Yes, this is Xu Dezhi with China Central Television. In my hand, I have a draft of the declaration of this ocean conference called Our Ocean, Our Future, Accelerating Action. Actually, there's declaration of last ocean conference, and we saw a lot of concrete ambitions here, the 30-30 target, BBNJ plastics. Can you briefly tell us how much is the negotiation going on with this declaration now, because it's still a draft? And secondly, will there be any mechanisms to ensure the outcome of this declaration can be executed? Thank you.
Mr. Lee?
Mr. Secretary General, do you want to?
Well, thank you for raising the question. Yes, you are right. The outcome document is still in a draft outcome document shape. It's under the silent procedure. We expect that member states will act or enact this final package at the Ocean Conference. So as you rightly observed that we don't have a specific mechanism in this draft outcome document to monitor the implementation, but perhaps you also noticed that every 3 years we would have this regular UN event to review the progress on implementation, and also we will draw the lessons on the implementation process. So that I hope that our member states will certainly accelerate the implementation based on their voluntary commitments. Thank you.
So may I had a follow-up? So what is the lesson learned from the last Ocean Conference so far?
But I guess at least two things we may learn. First, for the SDG 14, the implementation remains a huge gap there because this SDG 14 is one of the most underfunded SDGs. So that's why it's essentially important to mobilize additional funding to support the SDG 14. And second, as you just now rightly said, that we need to explore whether or not we could have established a mechanism to monitor the implementation. Thank you.
This is Ming Lu from China Daily. So as we know that small island countries and coastal communities from global south countries, they are always on the front lines of ocean degradation. And Mr. Li Junhua, you just mentioned that there are 10 programs over this year's ocean conference. I'm just wondering, is there any program addressing these problems facing with the global south countries, and also is there any mechanism or any concrete steps is going to be built to ensure that developing countries are involved with ocean decision-making process? Thank you.
Mr. Lee.
I'm glad that you paid more attention or specific attention to the specific vulnerabilities facing the SEATS members. It is very true that SEATS members are victimized first because of this climate change, because of the sea level rise. So during the Ocean Conference, we scheduled a number of special events and side events for SEATS. And then also AOCs will initiate a number of activities during the conference. So for the further specifics, I would suggest you to check our website for this specific arrangement. Thank you.
One more question. Sorry. Ambassador.
I would add to Mr. Lee's answer that there will be a forum of islands. Il va y avoir un forum des îles du 8 au 10 juin.
From the 8th to the 10th of June, that will emphasise small island countries in the continuity of the 4th international conference. So the Island Forum, that's going to take place that took place in May 2024. So that's the Island Forum, which is going to be a specific event.
And I'd like to add to your question that in the operative paragraph 30 of the political declaration, for the first time, there is ambitious language on means of implementation. So it's not enough to just state that we need SIDS, AOCs, or coastal communities, low-lying coastal countries need support, especially when it comes to sea level rise that is a direct correlation with climate change. But the means of implementations make the difference because it addresses the concerns of SIDS, low coastal states when it comes to this issue. Thank you.
Okay, we have one more question here and then one online. We'll see how much time we have. But yes,
Thank you very
please.
much. Yvonne Murray, RTE News, Ireland's public service broadcaster. I'd like to ask a question, please, about deep sea mining. As you know, countries like China have surged ahead with deep sea exploration and technology. The US government under President Trump has indicated a move to expand deep sea mining. To what extent is this a concern? And are you concerned that the ocean is going to just become another battleground for superpowers as they look to extract critical minerals from the seabed? Thanks.
Vous savez,
Well, the reason the new treaty on the high seas is so important to us is because it establishes a universal set of rules that seek precisely to prevent the risk that you just mentioned. That is, the risk of seeing the oceans become space for uncontrolled competition over the exploitation of natural resources. And the reason why we're working so actively to ensure the ratification and entry into force of the BBNJ Treaty is precisely because to ensure that these universal rules will be accepted as soon as possible to govern, through law, the risk of these types of excesses that we're so sensitive to.
Perhaps just to supplement the ambassador's remarks, as you know, that the political declaration for the Ocean Conference covers the variety of the priorities. But as you rightly observed, that deep sea mining is an area where the consensus proves to be quite challenging and difficult. So at this moment, what I can say is this is an issue that is a part of the intergovernmental process taking place under the authority of the International Seabed Authority. So that's something for deep sea mining issue that I guess ISA is the more or less relevant architecture to deal with that. Thank you.
And we're just going to take one question online. Amélie, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Good, thanks. Amélie Bottelier from AFP News Agency. You said, Ambassador Bonafont, you said that you would like this ocean declaration to be as strong as the Paris Agreement. But a lot of NGOs have been quite disappointed with the ambition of the political declaration. So what do you answer to them? And especially, there's a lot of speculation that the US will not be present in Nice. So how can such a declaration be as powerful as possible when such a big maritime power is not there? Thank you.
That's nice of you to keep the best question for last. Okay. A few comments in answer to that. First of all, the Paris Agreement was a departure point, not an arrival point. And we are building on that departure point that itself was the legacy of the 1992 convention and the protocols that followed that. So we're in a process, and as part of this process, the reason for the ambition behind our declaration is to make sure that this departure point goes as far as possible within the remit of international consensus. And in our view, the co-facilitators, in particular Australia and Cabo Verde, if I remember correctly, have carried out some really quite remarkable work on this that have enabled us to arrive at a draft presented to the parties that we really think is very meaningful and significant. Of course, some would have liked it to go even further, but we believe that it reflects the state of play of consensus currently, and it's a good departure point. Your second question was on the participation of the United States. We don't have anything yet about the participation of the United States as a national delegation at the Nice conference. However, what I can tell you is that many American cities will indeed be participating, and a lot of American companies will be participating too, as well as American scientists. The United States are not being left out of this agreement for now. Thank you.
I think we'll close here. One more question? Two more questions.
You
briefly.
said that you were expecting 1,500 delegates. Can you tell us, are you expecting heads of state? Are you expecting mainly environment ministers? Who can we expect to be speaking for countries at the conference?
For the moment, as I said at the beginning, on the list we have around 50 heads of state and government, and the list continues to grow. And otherwise, the delegations will very often be made up of ministers. It's something that we're still working on.
Thank you. Hi, Ambassador Chen. How are you? My question is actually for you because we previously talked about how Costa Rica is making waves when it comes to ocean conservation. So are you using, like when you talk about the action plans, the 10 action plans, some of the example from countries like Costa Rica for other countries to adopt?
Thank you very much for your question. I think that the first one is that Costa Rica is an ocean country. 10 times of our territory is basically ocean. So paying attention to our coastal communities is one of the most important things that we have done. Listening to their grievances, their concerns, and addressing their wants and needs is something that we have done well, and we continue to do that. Protecting areas, 25% of the country, and now we are expanding that protection into the ocean and maritime zones. Cooperation with other countries, we have done that with Ecuador, and that is an example of scientific diplomacy in which we were able to work together and came here to UNCLOS to present an instrument in which we determined our borders. So I think we are an example when it comes to conservation, collaboration, and cooperation, and science diplomacy.
Also, because since we're in the US and US, we don't have the funding for climate as much as before. So what are other countries will be doing in the ocean conference, to bring the entire world, including USA?
Anybody want to make any closing remarks in that spirit of bringing countries?
Perhaps to the last question, just now ambassadors have underlined that before the member states and the other stakeholders announced their commitments, including the funding commitments, I guess it's a better we leave that issue at the conference itself. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the speakers, and thank you for your interest.
Merci à vous.
Yeah, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Being a little bit of an issue register. They said on the transmission.